It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Did I say hello, hello, hello?
Hello.
Hello. Hello, Mr. Stella. Hello, Governor.
That's what we get when we have the week off.
Oh, man.
I'm not even going to ask how y'all are doing. I'm just going to hope everybody out there is doing okay, and let's just go ahead and move on with the show. So we start with Annabelle.
Oh, man. I wish I had a lot to say, but I don't. I've had a lot of technical difficulties. Coke apparently is not the thing to hold over a keyboard.
Holding it over the keyboard is fine. Dropping it on the keyboard is bad.
Yeah. And, I had just put the lid on, but my hands, sometimes they just, I don't know, they just give out, I guess. And so I dropped the drink, but it hit the keyboard so hard it snapped the lid off. So it was like, ah. So it was all of it, not just spilled. It was all of it. I flipped it over and it was like Niagara Falls coming out of the keyboard. Didn't think that was good. But I got that all replaced, and I got my setup changed, so fingers crossed.
Niagara Falls. Slowly
I turned. Step by step.
Inch
by inch.
Yeah, and I've also decided that when there's a new good show that comes out, I'm not going to watch it because it seems like as soon as I get interested in it, they cancel it. So if you were a fan of Westworld, I'm sorry. I didn't see that one coming.
Well, at least we know somebody's listening to our show. Even if it's whoever cancels the good shows.
And Stan, our NSA guy.
And yet, strangely enough, here we are, continuing on with our show.
Yeah.
They only cancel the good ones, folks.
Only the good ones.
Staying power.
But I have heard that even though they canceled it, the actors for the season that was supposed to happen are still going to get paid and everything. So it's kind of why don't they just, I don't know, maybe film it?
Go ahead and make it, right.
Right.
Well, that's the actors. It doesn't mean we didn't hear anything about the crew.
Right. There's a lot of other stuff involved, unfortunately.
True. And it is on HBO, and I guess right now, if you are attached to anything on HBO, don't.
Whoa.
They are shaking that tree hard right now, and
dropping like flies.
Yeah. But maybe it was about a year ago, I told you guys about a TV show I was watching called Manifest, and it got canceled. And I think they found out halfway through the third season that they were going to be canceled. So he tried to cram all of this story into the last half season, but we still didn't get enough of it. But Netflix picked it up, and season 4 is now over there on Netflix. So I haven't started watching that one. I'm finishing up Westworld. So
You're gonna wait for the other shoe?
right, it's kind of like
Be careful, the other shoe's got Coke in it.
right.
Have a Coke and a frown.
So, yeah, and I guess I said it last time too. If you haven't watched Westworld, it's pretty neat. And the third season was kind of totally different than the first two. It had Aaron Paul in it from Breaking Bad. And was it Breaking? Yeah, it was Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
Better Call Saul was the second one, but I like him. To me, he's always got the same expression on his face, but it was a pretty good story. It's kind of the third season is more kind of his story. I haven't started the fourth, but they say that the fourth kind of goes back to the first season, so I'm kind of excited to see that too. But and they also released. I watched it with Brandon. The Doctor Who. What was it? The Power of the Doctor.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sure this has been spoiled 1,000 times over, but I won't do it here because I'm not a huge Doctor Who fan. I know enough to where I could watch it with my kid, but when what happened, it was kind of like, holy shit. And Brandon was like, didn't you know this was going to happen? It was like, no. I don't follow the Doctor Who circle, so I did not know that it was him, and I'm very happy it's him. But that's all I'll say on that one. So.
Well, all I'll say is I knew he was going to be involved, but not that way.
Yeah. Yeah. That it was definitely one of those wow. First time done ever. So that's kind of
So.
But yeah. I said I'm happy with that one. But no, I guess that's about it. Actually, one last thing.
Bring it on, Columbo. We got you.
Right. A few weeks back, we had some really bad rain, and it forced me to go through my comic shed. And I'll be damned. The first book that I didn't run across that caught my attention was, once again, Secret Wars. So it was like, you know what? I'm going to try this one more time. So, we've had a lot of bad weather the past couple of weeks, I guess, actually.
Mm.
So I've slowly been chipping away at that one, and I guess third time's the charm because I'm starting to, I don't know, it's an easier read now.
Well, and maybe taking it in small doses is the way to go. I mean, it was released monthly, so.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's a lot to absorb all at once, that's for sure.
It is. There's so much going on, because like you said, this was a monthly thing. Wasn't it not only monthly, but a couple of lines that were running this?
There was some crossover stuff going on in the background, but
yeah.
I mean, mostly what that was like the regular books dealing with the absences of the heroes involved.
Yeah.
Like, this person is missing. This person, we haven't seen this person in a while.
And they really only did that for like 1 month or so. So, I mean, but there was still a lot that had been going on because obviously they had their own stories going on until this happened. So all of a sudden they're coming back and trying to pick up those storylines, but also kind of put out hints of what's going on in this book that you can't, that you're, you know.
That you're not reading right now.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, it was coming out at the same time, but I mean, some stuff that may be referenced you won't get to that point until several issues down into it. So it's just like, okay, let's be cryptic. Okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not as bad.
Yeah.
I also found House of M, and I think I'm going to start that one after.
Okay.
So, yeah. So go figure. I'm getting back into reading, and it's Marvel. Who would have guessed that?
It's funny that you mentioned Secret Wars because I recently finished reading the Things series, and the second collection was that from the time that he was actually on Beyonder's world from Secret Wars, because if you remember, he stayed behind when everybody went home.
Yeah.
Because he was able to change back into human form, and he was like, I don't really want to lose that, so I'm just going to stay here and just check things out. And it's kind of a weird run. And John Byrne was writing. I think he did some of the art, I think, but maybe not all of it. But it was kind of interesting going back and reading that again. So
yeah,
it's kind of funny, kind of a funny coincidence there.
That is. I could see why he would make that choice, though.
Well, I don't. Should I spoil it?
Yeah.
For something that's
Right.
something that's 40 years old. But he comes back. He's like, okay, I need to come back and all that. And of course, he finds out all the shit that's been going on since he's been gone. Ree goes, I finally realized what's going on. You had the ability to change back to human form all the time. But the problem is he thought he killed his human half before he left Battle World. So he's like, I'm now stuck in this rock form. Which, of course, they've come back and retcon all that shit. Anyway, so. But at the time, it was.
You all along.
Yeah, I mean, something along those lines. But it was a pretty much a gut punch because you're going, holy fuck. Why did you keep this, Reed, why did you keep this information away from him? Because he figured it out while they're dealing with the situation on that planet. He figured that's why. Maybe he's always had that ability, and maybe subconsciously he was telling himself, I'm destined to be this form. So, which kind of goes against everything Reed's done to try to get him back into human form, or at least try to control it. And you're going, okay, it's an interesting idea, but once you start really thinking about it, you're going, that doesn't really work, does it?
Yeah.
Anyway, but
That's pretty cool.
crazy timing there.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's a weird little read. It's definitely kind of out there, but that's what made it fun. Because it wasn't Ben just going around in battling bad guys on Earth and all that. Anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Okay. Anything else?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. All right. How about you, Mikey?
Oh, gosh. I kind of decided after we subjected ourselves to Scarecrow Month that I needed a palate cleanser.
I thought you were going to say you watched the third one. Since we watched 1 and 2, I went ahead and watched 3.
I'm not that much of a completionist. Not
Or a masochist.
right. that either. Spell it however you like. No. I kind of just took a little time to go back to kind of where my horror roots started. So I started watching vampire movies,
Ah,
which I mean, not necessarily fantastic ones, because there's always, regardless of how great a genre or subgenre is, there's always more bad ones than good ones,
of
just because
course.
that's how it works.
No.
But the one I was going to at least mention, because it's interesting, if not wonderful, um, is the Argento Dracula,
Okay.
which was originally known as Dracula 3D, which explains a few things. I mean, the version I watched was not a 3D version of it, but
Oh.
there are some parts of it that, knowing now that it was intended to be a 3D movie, kind of creeps me out a bit, but that's okay. Um, this actually came out in 2012, and as adaptations of the Dracula story goes, um, this is one of them. It's as a movie, and I have watched some variation, some movies from different countries and stuff, some international stuff before, and so I try not to judge stuff too harshly. Um, but even not judging too harshly, this was still a very uneven movie. Um, it's not bad per se, um, but it's not paced the way you would expect it to be, especially from 10 years ago. I mean, you expect different pacings when you're watching much older movies, but this was a little slow. Um, and although I would say, given that it was, like I said, really uneven, um, it had some interesting kind of departures from the original story. And it also had, okay, it had some really bad acting, but it also had some really good acting. Um, if nothing else, it's fun to watch this movie to see Rutger Hauer play Van Helsing.
Yeah, I was just looking into that.
He does. Okay, he's not in this movie anywhere near enough, for one thing. One of the uneven bits is that he just sort of randomly shows up 2/3 of the way through the movie. The implication is that someone sent for him, although it's a little fuzzy as to who it was that sent for him. Um, and he's a weird, a weirdly large number of scenes that he's in alone. Although usually it's somebody shows up and he just like massacres them. It's really funny. The violence in this movie is so oddly fast. Not in an action sort of way. Mostly just in a rip somebody's face off sort of way. It just killing something fast. I mean, which makes sense with a vampire movie to an extent, but I mean, it's not just the vampires doing it, so it's a little strange in that regard. And the guy who played Dracula in this, um, his name is Thomas Kretschmann. He's a German actor. Um, it's funny because I was looking at some of the reviews of this movie, and they really picked on him quite a bit. But I
Yeah.
thought he did really well. He played a very interestingly subdued Dracula. I mean, just oozing the quiet confidence thing. I mean, this clearly just a comfortable in his skin sort of thing. He just he just breezed through the role, and in the best possible way. I thought he did a really nice job. He was kind of awkward when he needed to be, but otherwise very smooth. I wish the CGI was better in this movie, and I wish I couldn't. I wish I didn't get so creeped out by how often Argento shows his own daughter naked in movies. I don't get it, but it's an interesting thing to watch. I mean, if you're into vampire movies, you shouldn't miss it. Would I just recommend it to a random stranger on the street? Probably not. But it is an interesting vampire movie. It's an interesting Dracula variation, for sure.
You talk about some of the reviews, and I'm reading some of it here. It's a sparse, cheap-looking movie with visual effects that would have been rejected on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh.
Well, you think that's bad? You talk about them crapping on Kretschmann's acting.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, perhaps the least terrifying version of Dracula to come along since Leslie Nielsen.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And I don't know what that person was watching, but it couldn't have been this movie. Because I thought Kretschmann did a really nice job.
Well,
he was a highlight in this movie. Now, as I said, this is not a fantastic movie. This is not an award winning. And yes, the like I said, the CGI is kind of awful, pretty much across the board. Anytime you get CGI, it's pretty bad. There's not a ton of it, but when it's there, it's important. And there was just some. It was interesting how many times in this movie Dracula just basically explodes and tears somebody to shreds, and it's very quick when he does it. It's all, I mean, it's like, it's almost as if they were doing it that fast because they couldn't afford to do it well or something. The amount of time he pounds on Van Helsing in the final battle scene is absolutely ridiculous, because there's no way. Nobody has survived Dracula for more than 3 or 4 seconds, except for Van Helsing, who's just a guy, or at least we're not given any reason to believe otherwise. And boy, he just stands there pounding on this guy. I mean, just punching him, as opposed to like changing into a wolf and tearing somebody's head off, sprouting claws and ripping through human flesh like it was not even there. And for some reason, he just makes a fist and starts punching Rutger Hauer in the face over and over and over again. And I'm like, what? This is
poor decisions.
The battle, the fight scene at the end was definitely a poor decision. It did not make any sense in that regard. And it was basically Van Helsing waiting for Mina to pick up the pistol and shoot Dracula. And I mean, there were silver bullets in the gun. There was something, but I'm spoiling a little. But it's a 10-year-old movie. It's on Tubi. Go watch it if you like vampire movies. If you don't, maybe don't.
Cool.
Yeah, I just added it to my list, so I may check it out. I mean, Rutger Hauer. So I mean.
Mm-hmm. No, like I said, don't freak out. He doesn't show up for a while. You're gonna watch a lot of movie before you get to Rutger Hauer, but Kretschmann does a nice job of. I mean, he's not there a lot either, but but for example, the guy who plays Harker is awful, and Harker is just completely useless. But anyway,
how old Hauer is it?
Well, like I said, this was 10 years ago, so a pretty old Hauer.
Yeah. How long? I'm not sure how long he's been gone. Gone a few years.
I don't know. Didn't think to look.
I don't even know why I brought it up. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Because for a while there, he was looking real rough.
2019.
Yeah, he's fairly rough. I mean, not. I mean, he's still Rutger Hauer. He's still got what he's got, but yeah, I mean,
But he's not Wolfgar kind of Hauer, right?
oh no, not at all. Yeah, no, he actually there's some acting here. He does a pretty good job himself.
Some of the pictures I'm seeing, he doesn't look. I mean, he doesn't look bad. I mean, he's
Right, he's older. He's an older
he's
gentleman
old.
for sure.
He's old, but I mean, not like yeah. Yeah, you're not looking at him going, "Oh my God, what is he doing in this film?"
Right, yeah, like he can move
Well,
around.
you may think about that, think that after the movie, but
Well, I mean, the director is kind of a legend in his own
yeah,
circles. I mean, Dario Argento he's been
yeah,
making movies a long time, and he's pretty
right.
well respected. Um, this might not have been one of his better choices, but it's all good.
Hey, nobody hits a home run every time.
Right. Again, there are often more bad ones than good ones because that's just the way it works.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's fun.
Sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Les, how about you?
I spent a lot of my time on YouTube video, and something struck me. So I decided to watch videos of people watching two different things. One was people watching the Righteous Brothers for the first time,
Hmm.
sing something like You've Lost That Lovin' Feeling or Unchained Melody. And everybody was amazed, and the majority of the people that were viewing were black, and the majority of them thought that the Righteous Brothers were a black group. Uh, and I can't say it was catchy or catching, but it was pretty evident that a lot of these people were much younger than me, and as a result, did not know of the music at the time. The other thing I watched was people watching Abbott and Costello do Who's on First for the first time. That got freaking funny because I've never seen an 8-minute skit be stopped and reviewed so many damn times because they couldn't believe that somebody could actually do this, do a skit like this, be so precise with what they had to say. And I'm going, well, let's say it began in the late 30s, early 40s. So
Like
yeah,
that.
I could see them getting their timing down. But it was fun to watch. It was fun to see reactions. And my thanks and my congratulations go out to people that did do this. Let's just put the boys on and see what happens. I have no idea what's going to happen, but it could be good. And of course it was. It was great.
Yeah.
And like I said, for 8 minutes, I was still laughing. And I bet I saw people review that 20 times or more. just to see what people's reactions would be. And it got very amusing. So I've got a feeling I'm going to go back and watch some others because just the reactions are so much fun. And it's sad to think that some people had never heard of that comedy team, as was evidenced by 2 or 3 of the people, or that they were not, they did not know who the Righteous Brothers were.
Well, that's just stuff that's just not shown or played anymore, unless it's something like YouTube or something along those lines.
That's true.
Right,
You know.
and so props to these folks for actually kind of bringing it into the now.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking the time to review these.
Right, you're kind of exposing it to a whole new audience now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. The reaction videos to music can be kind of interesting. A few weeks back, I'm not even sure how I came across it, but I did. But I started kind of going through and watching some of these that were listening to A Firth of a Fifth for the first time. They knew nothing of Genesis except for the hits. So someone had through their Patreon said, you need to listen to this song and react to this. So they did. And it's kind of like you said, it kind of blows their mind. You're like, oh wow, I didn't know they did this kind of music. You know, God, some of the stuff were deal with Chicago because they know the power ballads and all that. I think I've talked to you before about this duo that was listening to Introduction for the first time, and it blew their minds because you're just like, wow, this kind of kicks ass. It's like, yeah, there's a little bit more to this group than what you know. So, but yeah, it's kind of fun to watch those. And see them kind of get into, if it's music, to get into the music, or if it's something they hadn't seen before. You know, you talk about the Who's On First. I would love to see someone react to the argument sketch from Monty Python.
Oh yeah,
Because that's very similar. But it's funny sketch. I remember, this is a long time ago, showing that to my dad. The argument sketch, and that's one of the few times I actually saw him laugh. He laughed at that sketch because it was so well done. The timing, just everything was perfect. And there's probably some of them out there. There's probably some. I hadn't come across any reaction to Monty Python sketches, but there's got to be out there. Somebody's got to have done it by now.
I would say you're probably right.
But that's cool. It's fun kind of catching some of those reaction videos to the music because you can see them actually getting into the groove and they may stop and go, wow, that was kind of neat that this happened, or da 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 da, and then get back into it and all that. It's kind of interesting to watch and fun.
The couple you watched do the review of Chicago. Do you remember what their names were?
I don't remember off the top of my head. He's a guitar player. He's white, and she's a singer, and she's black.
Okay, that's somebody different.
I'll have to look them up, and maybe we'll put it in the show notes. They're real good. They're real good. I like them a lot. They are musicians, so they have their own group and all that. So, yeah, they've done a few of those.
Yep, those are cool to watch.
Mm-hmm. Have any of y'all, have Mikey or Liz, have you watched any of those type of videos?
I have, yeah.
Maybe a few.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well that's cool. That's cool.
Cool.
It is great that the younger generations are starting to discover, like Abbott and Costello. Hopefully they discover Laurel and Hardy and the Marx Brothers and some of these other classic comedic teams. It's so funny because I've mentioned it recently about me watching Mission Impossible on Pluto. You know, and they promote their other channels obviously during the commercial breaks, and one of them is the Johnny Carson channel.
Yeah.
And they start listening. Hey, look at all these guests that he had. And I'm sitting here going, okay, would anybody really know who that is? Who that is? I mean, there's a couple of them. You know, I mean, they start off with like Carrie Fisher and Betty White. I'm like, okay, those no-brainers. They know. But I mean, you know, like Joan Rivers. Okay, do people remember Joan Rivers? I mean, she was popular. She was funny, but she's been gone a while, and it's not a name that comes up all that often.
No.
So it's like, and that's kind of the funny thing about just watching those commercials for like the Dean Martin roast. And look at all this talent that was here, and I'm going, 90% of people watching this don't know who those people are.
That's true. And it's scary.
Because they've been unfortunately they've been gone a long time. You know.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see like, hey, there's Freddie Prinze. I'm like, okay, people may know his son, but they don't know him because he's been gone so long and gone at a very young age. But he was funny.
Yeah.
You know, and you have Jimmy Walker. Well, nobody knows him except for this commercial for Medicaid. You know, well, they may see Good Times. It's still around. That's still in reruns and syndication. So maybe they might know him. But some of the others, they may not. Like Red Buttons, they don't know who Red Buttons is. Don't know Red Fox from Sanford and Son. Bill Crystal, they may know him from some of his more recent films, but yeah, it's
There was a
sorry
special for Laugh-In that I saw. This was done in 2000, or it's in 2019. Yeah, 2019. And they paraded actors out there, and I was going, well, that age group, or the people that are watching this for the first time, don't know who those people are.
Yeah.
They had no clue. Yet they kept coming. And it was funny to watch. But when it got political, then it got silly. Because 19 was, of course, the age of Trump. So they were taking shots. And that, to me, they could have done without the political stuff.
Well,
Laugh-In did political, but
yeah,
it was much slyer than what this group was doing.
Different type of writers and writing style.
Yeah.
There goes more Coke.
Hang on. Okay, sorry.
We gotta chip in and for Christmas get her a thing of sippy cups.
I hit that thing clean smooth right off the desk. I need to get my bar back for it, but okay, I'm good.
You mean I've got to start my dialogue over
Yeah,
again?
start over. Let me catch up.
Just start over from, how about you, Les? No, I'm kidding. Please don't.
How about you, Les?
That's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not cutting that shit out. That's funny.
Sorry.
Actually, I was pretty good after us spending a couple of minutes going, oh, this is sad. This is sad. This is sad. To have a little laughter, that helps.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, back to more sadness because I really don't have much. even having the extra week off, I don't really have a whole heck of a lot to bring to the table. So there you go.
It's okay, because you brought the table.
Mm.
I just knocked shit off it.
Is she dancing on the table again?
We're not supposed to talk about that.
Yes.
Well, this all started before show, and Mikey's like, move it closer to you. Well, I did. Too close.
Well, I didn't say anything about flailing your arms around either, though, now did I?
That's true.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it was implied to hell and back, but that's not the point.
All right. Before we get into this week's discussion and talk about sad and dark and all that shit,
Mm-hmm.
I do want to point out that we do have a Discord. It's been up for going on 2.5 years. We're getting close there. We post a lot of news items, stuff for discussion, memes, videos, fun stuff. We'll have activities on there. If you are more than welcome to come join us. Sign up for Discord is free. The app is free in any app store. We do have an open invitation on our homepage, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. So if you like to hang out with us, by all means, please do. Do it today.
Yeah.
All right.
Please.
Yes, Les is lonely, so please come join him.
Well, the word's out now. Yes.
All right. Like I said, we're gonna go a little dark with
A
this,
little?
but a little. Well,
Even I call this shit dark. It's pretty bad.
well, it had come to my attention that kind of a significant anniversary happened. It's actually going to be on the 16th of November. It's something that's when the story started coming out, all of a sudden it's kind of had a lasting influence in pop culture. On November 16th, 1950, what was it?
57.
57, yes. Ed Gein was arrested for the murder of Bernice Worden. And did he confess to the other murder? Because
Yes,
I know
he
he was okay. Because I know he's convicted of 2, but there were several others that they weren't sure of, including his own brother.
Mm-hmm.
So
And possibly his mother.
yeah. So with that, we are going to discuss Ed Gein, better known as the Butcher of Plainfield.
Had this happened today, they would have convicted him of more than 2. The House of Horrors, I think there were so many pieces and parts that they couldn't put together a full number of how many victims he had. But I think, too, looking at the time this was, you kind of had to, I don't know, kind of put a name to the body, and they couldn't do that. So the two
Yeah.
that they could get him on, that they could put a name to the body, was the two that they convicted him on.
Right.
Golly, I watch a lot of true crime, and
A lot of true crime.
yes, people like him, I don't get it. Just to have that final snap, and it seemed like other than having a very, very doting mother, it seemed like he had a pretty normal childhood until he had to drop out of school, but, you know, or at least they don't make record of him like killing cats or something like that. It was, a case where I think his father was the first one to die, and that's kind of what sent him on his spiral.
Well, his father was an alcoholic, but I don't remember them saying anything about any kind of abuse. But
Yeah.
that I can recall off the top of my head. But
Well, I had watched one, and it looks like his father could be abusive, but the mother stepped in a lot.
yeah,
And she ran the house. If Mama said stop, you stopped right then and there, and you didn't flinch till she said go again, So I think if there was abuse, it wasn't around her, which I think is also why he built up this fascination with his mother, because that was like his protector. She didn't like any of his friends. Well, he thought she knew best, kind of thing. She's always looking out for me. She loves me and only wants the best for me. So, kind of weird.
and you mentioned, no reports of murdering animals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking, late 40s, early 50s. He could have done it, and no one knew better.
True. Because you just don't start chopping faces off and hanging them on your wall, And I hate to say this because I have a huge family full of hunters, but when you live on a farm like he did, people aren't going to think twice about you killing rats and deer, or, you know what I'm saying? It was kind of a normal farm thing for you to do, so.
Well, killing rats, I mean, it's pest control, and killing
Right.
deer, you're hunting for food or whatever. It's the killing of cats and killing of dogs and
Right.
something like that. That kind of crosses a line for a lot of people.
Even killing a rat, you can cross a line killing a rat. It's,
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're just
torture
shooting it or something,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, you gotta have to be caught.
Yeah. Or people would have to see a mutilated corpse, and But like I said, on a farm, wild animals, it probably wasn't a weird thing to see that kind of stuff. So the signs could have been there, but what got me though is the people in the town. Now, to me this kind of sounded like a little town like Marlin, population 800, and they had the farm like we did. I don't have faces hanging on the wall, I swear. But people were like, he was so nice. He always had a story. They said right after he was arrested for this, the town had like a dance that was planned. They weren't dancing because he was arrested, but they were like, of course the story kind of floated around the dance, and everybody was like, no, they're wrong. That couldn't be, not our Ed. Well, then they started pulling out chairs made of human skin and, all kinds of things. And so this was a case of a man who really, really hid his evil, which is kind of weird because a lot of times, not most of the time, but a lot of the times you will see where people who wind up turning out to be like totally psycho, they don't interact well with other people. They're kind of introvert. They don't know how to hold a conversation. It's kind of it's not hard to go, oh yeah, that guy did slaughter But with people like him and Gacy and Ted Bundy, where they have this charm and not necessarily like a sex appeal, but where they just have a way with people where, have you ever walked up to someone and they started talking to you and it's like, wow, I feel like I've known you my whole freaking life. That's the kind of people they are. They know exactly how to I don't know the word, perform, to where when something comes out and they are finally caught, people are like, wow, I wouldn't have thought that of him, which makes it even more scary.
But Ed did not have that ability. He was not of the group that could charm anybody.
Well, not charm, but people said he did come by and talk to people and always had a story for people to tell and that kind of thing. So he wasn't like a total outcast either, though, Maybe a little awkward.
Well, I think we'd all have to say he's more than a little awkward.
Right.
Well, according to this that I read, it said that he was shy and had strange manners, such as just laughing out of the blue.
Yeah.
And apparently his mom, Augusta, really chastised him whenever he tried to make friends. So
did not want him to have friends. But after she died,
Yeah.
Those people to me are even more scary. You don't see them as a threat. And they've got faces hanging on their walls,
But who knew? Nobody knew that had been happening.
Nobody.
So he could float around like he wanted to, without a fear.
Because nobody went to the farm because it
was kind of remote and it was a small town and nobody needed to.
Yeah,
well,
basically.
It sounds like
it's not like they were welcome
too.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Liz. Go ahead.
Well, it sounded like he was in town a lot too because they all knew who he was. So there was really no reason to go
and he
see
did
him.
odd jobs and interfaced with people and seemed perfectly fine, and nobody had any reason to question.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And the only thing that got him busted was a receipt. And honestly, I think if they wouldn't have found that receipt, because it sounded like the I forget her name. I can't remember the victim's name.
Bernice.
But Bernice.
Yeah.
She actually owned the hardware store, and it sounds like he was in there quite a bit, and they talked, but there at the end, it kind of sounded like she had gotten to the point where, like, you need to go. You're making me uncomfortable. So when her son came in and saw that receipt, he was like, I remembered her telling me, hey, this is getting kind of weird now, and that's what took them out there. So had she have not, for one, spoke up and told somebody, hey, this guy's kind of making me feel weird, they probably wouldn't have suspected anything about him. So, you ever feel weird, speak up. You never know. Because how many other receipts were there?
But it was the last receipt.
Yeah.
It was the last.
That was the difference.
Because he was, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm remembering he was supposed to actually come back that morning to pick up something that was what that receipt was about, whatever his purchase was.
I think you're right. Yep.
I can't remember what it was right now.
I can't remember either. But it was something like farm related, though.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, a trash bags and a shovel. Yeah.
It's a fertilizer?
What do you do with trash
think
bags
it
and a
was
shovel,
fertilizer.
Liz?
It was like
A gallon of antifreeze is what it says.
Oh, antifreeze.
antifreeze. Yeah.
Right, which Wisconsin tractors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think to break down compost, don't they use antifreeze?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You
I know
you
we
ventured
can't.
way off into beyond my farm knowledge already.
I know we can't because of the cows, but I think there's something about the antifreeze that you do something on the farm, and it's also like almost like a rat poison, the same way it would be for dogs. But yeah. So yeah, even that was something that most people would have went, well, he owns a farm, that makes sense to want that much, and
Yeah.
I watched one of the videos with a couple that visited grave sites, and one of their visits was to Ed Gein's grave site, which I thought was extremely weird.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's
it was
kinda-
interesting to see where he was buried, see that he was buried next to his mother.
I'm surprised it's left alone. If I was a family of one of the victims, I would not want him to have a headstone. I don't even know where half my kid is, and now this guy gets to rest by his mother. How fair is that? I don't understand the rule that when people die, we forget they were assholes. I don't get that one.
Well, worse than that, according to this, over the years, people would actually visit the site and chip off pieces of the gravestone. And then the stone itself was stolen in 2000, but was recovered a year later.
Yeah, they did steal it.
See, if it was a matter of desecration, I'd be like, I ain't going to spend extra on security. But these sick fucks actually worship people like this. And that, to me, that makes me sick, And they want a memento from a guy who chopped faces off and put them on a wall. I mean, he had a belt made out of women's nipples. I mean, why would this guy be a role model to you? What could he possibly have that you could look up to? I don't get it. That's like they were saying Charles Manson actually died with quite a bit of money from all of the books and artwork and everything else he sold from prison. That's sick. That's sick. I think all of that money should go right back to the victims, or their families.
Well, that's what Dahmer's father's done.
That's the way it should be.
I think like he wrote a book or something like that, and then there was a percentage, but I don't know how much, but it was given to the families, and I think he's actually doing a lawsuit against Netflix or something. Whoever just did the
Dahmer series, yeah.
The Dahmer series, suing them, and he says whatever he wins, that's going to go to the victims or the families.
It's. I think this is probably what I need to explain to my new friends too. There's a difference in people like me who like Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger and that kind of thing. These people that I'm not going to say heroes because they're not heroes. I find it fascinating, but they're not real. Mm-hmm. They have never in their lives hurt anybody, and I know the difference between acting this role and someone like Ed Gein, who really killed these people. There's no Hollywood magic behind this. He's a sick fuck. He really did this stuff. You can't. I don't get that. Because people are like, oh, you like horror, then you should like this. No, I don't, and I shouldn't. Because I'm not a sick fuck. But to me, there's a big difference. Like the people dressing up for Halloween this year is Dahmer. Really? There's real victims behind that name, you know?
It's a disconnect.
Yeah.
You know, they see it on TV, so it's just, you know, this didn't happen. Even if it pops up and says, hey, this actually fucking happened.
Yep.
There's still a disconnect.
And I hate to say this because, you know, it's Evan Peters. I mean, he's an amazing actor. But when you get people to humanize these people, when people are watching it on Netflix, they're thinking, oh, well, this is like Halloween. No, it's not. You know, this is, like you said, it's real. There are real families behind what this guy did, you know? And they don't appreciate seeing you think it's funny knocking on doors dressed as the guy who slaughtered their family member, you know?
Mm-hmm. They are still hurting from this.
Yeah.
Even if it's so many years later, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
That they had a loved one torn from them.
Yep. Brutally. Yep. And that's to the families that actually got closure. How many families are still missing kids that this guy probably took, or daughters that Geen took, and they never knew what happened to their child because there's not enough pieces of them to identify, you know? I don't understand people who think that's cool, you know? What do they say? Touch grass. Get in reality, because that's not cool. And with true crime, I do enjoy that. Like I said, I think a lot of this is, for me, my mind always wants to go, but why? Why? Why did someone have to die like that? Or why did this guy snap? Or not that it makes it any easier, but yeah.
It's a curiosity. Why did this person do what they did?
Yeah.
You know, like you said, what set them off?
Yeah.
You know, is it money troubles? Is it the fact that my partner is cheating on me, or just I'm insane? I don't know. You know.
Or like him, he was just sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he has inspired a lot of stuff that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of stuff. Tons.
And the earliest one, and I've heard different stories. Supposedly, Robert Bloch was not inspired by this story, which I have a difficult time believing because of the isolation. It's a mother and son.
In which movie?
Psycho.
Oh.
The book Psycho.
You know,
Robert Bloch. He from what I have read, comments that are attributed to him, he found out about Ed Gein after writing the book. He's like, well, that's an odd coincidence. And I'm like, I have a problem with that.
Yeah. Because I was about to say, out of all of the movies that have been put out based on this, Psycho is the one that touches the close to the true story. And they didn't have a motel, but, you know.
I mean, it's instead of an isolated farm, it's an isolated a motel.
Yeah.
Away from they moved the highway. The new highway was further away, so now, it's suffering. So it's a different world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a case of where he heard the story and kind of forgot that he heard it, kind of thing, And then later on was like, maybe it did influence me, but I didn't realize it at the time because,
If that's the case, then he's not being honest with what he said,
Yeah.
because he's like, well, because everything I have read, because I've read before that influenced book, I'm going, well, that makes sense, knowing the two stories. But he had come out and said, well, I had not heard about that until after I read the book, and I'm just like, no, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't believe it either, because the book appeared in 58.
Right after.
So literally a year later. Yeah.
The trial, or the murders were in 57. The trial's in 58. His book came out in 59.
Yeah.
And the movie came out in 60.
Yeah.
That's too much coincidence.
Yeah.
And something like this at that time would have been talked about quite a bit, It didn't have, it would be talked about today too, but this kind of thing didn't happen all the time back then, Especially to a little town like that.
Oh, if something like this happened today, the networks would be talking about it for weeks.
Maybe. Sometimes they don't even talk about any of it. It's like,
dear God, we've already got a movie about the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing.
Oh, that kind of thing, but nobody died there. Fortunately,
I don't think that matters. I don't think that makes any difference at all. Right, my soul died.
Lots of careers. Oh, man.
There was another murder around that time, the Starkweather murders, Charlie Starkweather. And I remember that because growing up at that time, those were the two things that I remember most. The Gein murder and the Starkweather murders. And both have been done into movies. So it's something that personally has fascinated me over the years. I'm a big follower of the Manson murders.
Yeah.
And once again, there's one that has had a movie made about it. So
yeah,
this Gein's work was the starting point of a lot of this stuff. And it hasn't really changed.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that, Les. Was that something that was, because I know you're originally from Oklahoma. I mean, was that in the newspapers in Oklahoma? Was it on the radio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure
it would
have.
It was constantly.
The amount of
still fearing.
The amount of weird stuff they pulled out of his house, I would have been shocked had it not been talked about, because that was, today that would still be fucking freaky as shit.
Well, yeah.
But like Rob Zombie will flat out tell you, yes, Tiny was inspired by Ed Gein, which that's, God, what the hell is the name of that movie? House of a Thousand Corpses. But he's like, yeah, there's total Gein influence all over this. Which actually people are like, well, he was influenced by Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yes. But what was that influence?
Right. I think you could argue the Texas Chainsaw Massacre dipped its toe in the Ed Gein story too.
They did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Buffalo Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Poor Ted Levine. God.
God, Ted Levine, man. Watching him in Silence of the Lambs and then seeing him on something else, you go, that's not the same dude. That is not
And that right there by itself is an amazing tribute to his acting skill.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
a great actor.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Sure.
Yeah.
And every
yes.
time I use lotion, I think, put lotion in the basket, or else you get those again.
Hey,
It puts the
that
lotion
was
in the skin.
yeah, and it does it whenever it's told.
Yeah.
Right, and I mean that was an Oscar-winning movie.
That was.
That was a huge pop culture thing for the whole phenomenon.
Yeah. I think anytime they can give us a glimpse into the mind of someone who's like that, people are going to eat that up. Because normal people like us,
You can't even say it, right?
but people like us, we can't. We're not evil, so we can't understand what would make somebody do that, you know? So, if we could, we'd be burying cats, I guess. I don't know, but yeah. And I don't, I wasn't trying to say that people who follow serial killers and stuff are totally fucked in the head. Because like I said, I'm fascinated by what makes them tick too. So I'm not saying all of them are messed up. If you're paying a guy for a picture, you're messed up. That's messed up.
Well, I'm glad that you've decided I'm not one of those sick people.
No, I'd have to admit I was sick with you.
Right. Purely self-interest on that one.
And like you said about Manson, I've always been curious about Manson and stuff too. I was born after that, but that still was pretty heavily talked about and with movies and that kind of thing too.
Yeah, it also hit the pop culture pretty hard.
But one thing, not to totally change the subject here, but one thing I never could understand about Manson, he was the one who stayed in the prison the longest for those crimes, but didn't kill anyone. He never held a knife in his hand. So it was kind of like, I don't understand like how Tex got out and became a preacher. I mean, yeah, hey, good for you. But he actually killed someone, I never understood why they didn't get life the way that he did. I know he influenced them and, talked them into doing this and everything else. But to me, that would be the lesser than someone actually holding the knife and killing a pregnant woman,
You say that, but the deal is, and I've been trying really hard not to psychoanalyze here, but I don't think I'm going to be able to stop anymore. The deal there is he's the one who can take a normal person like that and warp their mind to the point where they can hold the knife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is way more fucking dangerous.
True.
Because he could do that. He could do that to anybody. Because he proved that he could do that to anybody. Because there's a whole lot of anybodies in his little cult, and it basically is a cult.
It was.
And that's where it all comes from.
And not saying that he wasn't dangerous, because he was. And I totally agree that he should have died and did die in prison. But I think that the people who executed those murders should also have stayed locked up in prison and died there also.
Yeah, but I think the difference is that Manson is he's never really going to successfully convince anybody that he's cured or understands what he did and that it's wrong and all of that stuff. Nobody's ever gonna believe him when he says stuff like that. these other people whose minds were warped by him at least have a chance that they could get better, quote unquote.
Until another
better.
Manson comes along. Because
Well,
I hate to say this, but if you're influenced, you were weak, and
not
another
necessarily.
stronger alpha person comes along and does the same thing, you know.
Well, you kind if we look at the world that way, then we all need to be in prison all the time for the rest of our lives, because somebody could come along and influence us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a difference between someone could and someone did. Someone did come along and influence them, and they wound up killing quite a few people.
You said somebody else could do that to them again. We kind of have to assume that that's not going to happen.
We got them in prison, and we reconditioned them again to believe what we wanted them to and put them back out on the street. So once again, you've got someone who's taking
that's
the
because we
ideal that
can't
you're
afford
planning in
to
their
keep
head.
everybody in prison. Because the only way to keep everybody safe is to put them in prison.
I don't know. I think if you have murdered somebody, raped somebody, or hurt a child, you should never be out on the street again, period. Throw away the key. Why do we even keep them in there for 20 years? I
What's
honestly
the alternative?
Those three sets of people, you can't rehabilitate them. You can't. There's a sickness in their head, and until you stop them from thinking, they won't be like me and you. You know, the alternative, why, I won't go there. That's too,
Right.
I don't.
This is going to wander off into really weird territory soon.
Yeah. I just don't see a use to keep those kind of people around. I think hell burns hotter for them. So, quicker they get there.
Okay, but at what? Never mind. We got to stop.
Yeah.
Those people were pliable. They weren't easily influenced. They were pliable. They were at a point in their lives that they would take on anything or anybody. As a leader, they were pliable. Manson saw that.
Right.
Manson took advantage of it.
Manson is a person who is good at spotting that in other people around him.
Right.
If you get the chance to read the book, do so.
Helter Skelter?
Helter Skelter is one of the best crime books ever, written by the prosecuting attorney of that case. And it is spectacular.
I think I have read that. It's just been, I was probably a teen when I did.
I've probably told the tale. I bought that book on a Saturday, took it out by the swimming pool at the apartment, and didn't stop reading till I was about 400 pages into it. Found out that I was severely burned.
Oh, no.
I wondered if that's where this was going.
No.
Yeah.
And then he went and bought a whole bunch of aloe vera.
It was bad times.
Oh, no.
But
that'll make you remember a book, that's for sure.
Yeah.
See, that is the reason why when he goes to Hawaii, he stays in the hotel room to read books.
Well, luckily that was pre-Gina. So.
Gina would never
She
let me
goes
sit
to
out there
flip
that
them
long.
now.
Yeah.
I did have the book written about Keene in 1981, I think it was. And my wife looked at me and said, "Why are you reading that?" And I said, "Because this is fascinating stuff."
It is. And I like the books that not only tell you about the crime, but go into the trial and stuff.
Yes.
To me, I like that. Have you seen, I think it's called Paradise Lost on HBO? It's about the two little boys who died, and the town, of course, they want to blame somebody. So they picked these three boys who like listened to like Metallica and stuff, and said that because they listened to Metallica and stuff that they had to be satanic, and that they killed these two kids because, of their satanic rituals and stuff. Which of course the kids, they were like, we don't know what you're talking about. We didn't touch anybody. There's been like 3 different documentaries on this trying to prove these guys innocent, and it's pretty good because they do take you into the court, too, and it's kind of like even when you hear it in court, you're like, no, there's just something not right there, and they picked the perfect people to point the finger at, but just didn't all click, But if you like that kind of stuff, that one's perfect because we finally got a conclusion to it maybe 3 years ago. So I won't tell you what that conclusion was in case you watch it. So there's a beginning and an end is what I'm saying. It's not what if.
Sure.
But I remember that book, Helter Skelter. What I liked about it, not, weird way or anything else, probably about 100 pages of the middle of that book is nothing but pictures. So when they're telling you about the crime scene, they're actually showing you and kind of walking you through this is where they came in. And, so I found that kind of cool too, because it was like, wow, you could actually see and understand how things happened,
I had a problem with that part. Just because I was reading the book, I didn't want to stop reading the book to look at the pictures.
Yeah.
So I just forged ahead.
Because they even gave you the footnote, so you would know exactly which one they wanted you to look at that point.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, wow.
Now, Ed also robbed graves.
Mm-hmm.
Did he?
And as a grave robber, he even took the police on a tour of which graves he robbed. Upon his incarceration,
Wow.
they had him point out which graves he vandalized.
Yeah.
That was different.
That also makes sense too then why they only convicted him on 2. There was probably a discrepancy there of what did he rob from graves, which is still, what do they call that, desecration to a corpse?
Mm-hmm.
What he stole from the graves or what he actually killed and did this way. That's kind of interesting. I didn't know about the grave robbing. Because like today, we'd run DNA on all of that stuff and we'd have it figured out,
Yeah.
Not completely, but more than, he's got an apron made of faces. So with all of the movies that have been made based on him, I'm sure there's been a few where he is who he is, but I'm kind of glad that like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff never gave him that variety. We know Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's Leatherface. That's what most people know him as instead of that's Ed Gein, So I'm kind of glad they took that from him.
But Gein did have a mask.
Had quite a few. I said there was quite a few on the walls, and some of them that he would even put lipstick on them that his mother used to wear. That's when it was kind of like, oh. Oh.
Did you folks come across the fact that he was seeing a woman at one time?
No.
His mother was the one that told him not to because they were all whores.
Yeah.
Because you recall he was told not to speak to one of the neighbors because the neighbor had a woman living with him. But later, Ed had a girlfriend, we'll call her, and girlfriend was telling Ed to get away from his mother. And as a result, not that he really listened to her, but he kind of broke off the engagement. Not that they were engaged to be married, but just the physical engagement.
Yeah.
Right, the relationship.
Hmm.
There are so many depths in this story, so many things that just make you want to go tell me more. Tell me everything that you can find.
I mean, I will admit, I think his mom was probably 90% of his problem.
By far, yes.
You know, just when you take a child that young and constantly tell them things like that, this one's a whore, you can't be friends with that one. After a while, you know, you don't see her as wrong, but you see her as the only right one, you know?
Yeah.
And it's easy to hate people that way. But then to turn, like, the girlfriend there, she's telling him to cut it off with a woman who, in his life, was his only protector. You know, that's not going to work either, so.
Well, it was brought up earlier that Ed may have killed his brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when I read of that in this discussion, I was constantly looking for an age. At what age did this happen? Because to me, this determines if he's of right mind when he did it or not. Finally found out that it was when his brother was 41. So Ed would have been about 38 when that happened. When I first read about that, I thought, okay, one was 15, one was 13 or something. No, It was much older.
Mm.
And to me, that makes a hell of a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. From what I'm reading here, that the incident that led to his brother's death was in 44. So, Ed would have been 38 at the time. Around 38.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that they ruled the brother's death accidental, but he had a lot of trauma wounds around the head.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't consistent with, I think a fire broke out or something like that.
Well,
And
they were burning vegetation, and it got out of control, according to what I'm reading here.
Mm-hmm.
And what they originally thought was that it may have been heart failure, and that he had been missing for quite a while, and then it was some point later there was some kind of mention about the bruises on the head.
yeah, which are so consistent with a heart attack, you know.
Well, the quote unquote, the police dismissed the possibility of foul play, and the county coroner later officially listed asphyxiation as the cause of death. The authorities accepted the accident theory, but no official investigation and an autopsy was not performed. So,
Huh.
I guess they didn't look close enough to say, hey, looks like he had his head caved in.
Yeah.
We may need to investigate it.
It was a small town, and they didn't have any reason to suspect anything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's a small town, late 50s or mid 40s.
He'd been missing for a little while.
So yeah, it's just everything seemed like an act. So,
Huh.
yeah.
Little did they know.
Mm.
And then Ed stood trial. The judge at that time claimed that he was unstable to stand trial. So he was committed and had to be in an asylum at the time. There are a lot of questions at that time too. And when he was found to be fit for trial, the judge there sent him away. I guess would be the nice way to say it.
Yeah.
But that judge is also the man that wrote the book of which I was speaking earlier. He was the judge that sentenced Ed. So it ties in, not cleanly, not fully, but in his opinion, this is what happened.
That's pretty funny.
And the thing was he was arraigned for only one murder for Bernice.
Bernice, yeah.
So he was only tried for that one.
Right.
But he
did
apparently
confess to the other one.
he did confess to the other one, yes. And the thing is, reading a little bit about the trial, he said that he was examining the gun. He tried to put a bullet in the rifle, and then it went off, and then he didn't but the rifle was not aimed at her, and then he doesn't remember anything after that.
And it blew her face right off onto his wall. Yeah. And I don't know. I've heard when people have like a psychotic break, things go black for them too. So possible.
It's possible, but it's just
convenient.
I kind of find it funny that he claims that he didn't aim the rifle at her, but still she was shot.
Yeah.
Like how?
And why did you have your rifle at her hardware store? And why were you putting a bullet in your rifle at her hardware store? I mean, there's just too many, okay. We found you not insane, but are you fucking insane?
Well, I mean, it says that he was examining the gun, so he may have been looking at one to buy
at the hardware store.
At the hardware store.
Okay, that makes more sense then.
But still, I mean, if you take what he said as gospel, he didn't aim the gun. How does she still get shot? That doesn't make.
And if he blacked out, how does he remember that he didn't aim the gun?
True. Well, but he says he didn't. From the testimony, he didn't remember anything after the shot. So if I don't know.
It's not that he remembers aiming the gun at her.
Right.
He just remembers the gun going off.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, for a guy who slaughters and dices and kills, that was probably pretty shocking for a gun to go off. Oh, man. I mean, I guess if I was fighting for my life, I would say whatever, too, I've just never bought the whole blackout. It just sounds to me like an excuse.
Well, the blackout part of the story was kind of amusing too, because later, when the farm was going to go up on auction, I found it very interesting that the day before the auction was to happen, the farm burned to the ground.
Hmm.
And
All with
when
secrets.
told about this, Geen just shrugged and said, "It's for the best,"
Hmm.
and just didn't even think of anything else about it.
Man. Which is weird considering the attachment he had to the house. Didn't he have like 2 rooms totally boarded off? The last rooms his mother was in, and
He had 2 downstairs rooms open. The upstairs were boarded from anything and anybody.
Yeah. Hmm. So if he's locked up, I wonder who he had set the house on fire.
No, he was in jail.
That's what I'm saying. Someone had to, right?
It's believed to be the townspeople,
Yeah.
because they didn't want Kearney right there in their town, which I understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Completely.
Because all that did was make him famous. They didn't want that.
Well, and they have pictures where people were just like lined up to look into the windows of this place and stuff. So I could see that. Just let's try to go back to normal people,
Try to.
Yeah.
That's all you can do is ask to try to.
Ooh, I need some mind bleach.
It was going to be dark.
I had to warn you, this is going to be a dark one.
It was a dark one,
I think we kind of touched on it a little bit before last week or something like that. So I know Mike's seen it. Have y'all seen the Ed Gein film, Steve Railsback?
No.
I don't think so. Mm-mm.
It's been a while since I saw it, but I seem to remember it being pretty good, pretty decent. Wouldn't you say that, Mikey?
That was the impression I had. Yeah, it's been several years since I saw it too.
Yeah, because it was from 2000.
I remember liking it.
Yeah, I seem to remember liking it. There was another one called Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield, and that one was that's with Kane Hodder, and that they kind of went with a little bit more of a. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I was not keen on that one. That just didn't give me a story, the Ed Gein story in any way.
It was kind of a Friday the 13th, which is funny considering you have Kane Hodder. It seemed like they really tried to play up a little bit more of the violence and all that, and not actually kind of deal with Ed as a human being who had all these issues and did all these despicable things. They just basically went to play with the violence and all that.
They tried to turn a a psychological drama into a slasher movie,
Yes.
basically.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, Ed Gein is more the Steve Railsback one is definitely more psychological drama.
Yeah.
Is that available?
Let's see.
I didn't see a listing for it, but I did want to see that.
Oh, I can't find anything. It's got to be somewhere. It may be
Probably
listed.
for rent or something.
It may be listed under In the Light of the Moon too. So that's what I'm trying to look for right now. Which is funny because I did not know that was. I know that was the name for it. I just knew it as Ed Gein. So. Well, if we find where it's available, we'll post it in the show notes, and of course we'll post it on Discord as well.
Yep.
So
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, any final thoughts before we take a quick break?
I think we wrapped it up all right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to say, try following this story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fascinating situation. And,
It is a. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that it's the basis of so many. And it's definitely worth looking into.
Well, it would be available on Amazon Prime, but not at our location. So, yay.
Well, here comes a stiff letter tomorrow.
But
VPN.
it looks like you can see all the different sleepaway camp films. So, woohoo!
Oh boy.
Right. On that note, we are going to take a break and be back with Geek News for You. And we're back. It is time for Geek News for You. In this segment, we bring a couple of news items to the table for discussion. For this week, it is Liz and myself. So, Liz, would you like to go first?
All right. I'm doing something a little different this week. This has nothing to do with Jensen or Supernatural.
What?
Right?
I don't even know who you are anymore.
Right. I'm okay. Don't send help. Back out in 2005, PlayStation 2 released probably the best game ever that Sony has done, and that was God of War.
Oh, that was E.T., but okay.
No. I absolutely love this game. It deals very heavily into Norse mythology, and they've done really good to keep the story true to that mythology and stuff. So it's a really badass game. Since 2005, they have put out 8 games on the PlayStation. They've put out 8 games. They've used the same people to do it, which is Santa Monica Studios. And that's always cool when you get someone who will stick with the game. So it's kept the same feel to the games too. It's not like the Batman games where the 5th game comes out and all of a sudden your controls are different. It's always been pretty consistent. So anyways, in 2018, they put out the 8th game to this series, and we have been waiting for 4 years. 4 years for this game to come out.
4 years?
4 years.
How many years?
Yeah, and if you didn't know,
4 lights.
That's 2 consoles. So
Not
they
3?
right. No, just 2 in
Not
this
5?
time.
There are 4 lights.
3, sir.
Well, this one will come out on the PlayStation 5, I believe. I don't know if they're going to do also the PlayStation 4, because I think they just started taking orders today for the PlayStation 5s. But anyways, what makes this so cool, not only is it at the end of a 4-year wait for a really great game, they've kind of tied it back to the Norse mythology again, meaning that tomorrow night, this was originally what I wanted to do for my my news article, but it didn't happen in time to tell you guys about. But anyways, tomorrow night we are having a full lunar moon eclipse. I know I just fucked all that name up. A total lunar eclipse. There we go. A total lunar.
I think there
Easy
might be
for you to say.
I think there might be
Mhm.
something else in the Coke she's spilling over there.
Hmm.
But they will release the game actually on the 9th, day after. Now, in Norse mythology, why this is kind of important to this game and everything else, let me find their names again.
Just for the record, the tomorrow night she's talking about is November 8th. by the way.
November 8th, yes. I'm trying to find their names again. But in Norse mythology, there are 2 people who chase the moon. And it is said that one of them, I think, is the wolf. But it is said that once the moon is actually been captured, that's what they considered a moon eclipse. But not only are we having a moon eclipse, we're also going to have a blood moon, which blood moons means they've captured their prey. The dark moon means that they've eaten it. Well, part of this, the God of War story has to deal with the wolf. So they've used this to kind of tie in the game release. And I don't know. I myself thought it was pretty cool that they would think it out that far. And I'm wondering if at the beginning of the year they were like, hey, when's the next Blood Moon? We're going to put this game out, But like I said, to me, just a little detail like that they've done for this kind of shows me the detail that they've put into all of their games and why they've been really amazing games. So if you're into that kind of thing, like I said, I found it pretty interesting that they planned it this way. And I'm kind of wondering, too, if that's not also kind of an Easter egg for us, I guess, of what's going to be dealt with in the game. So, pretty cool. Like I said, if you have an opinion on it, let me know. Like I said, if you're just a geek and like the moon, tomorrow night is supposed to be really badass. So, when you hear this Sunday, I hope you didn't miss it.
Skull and Hottie.
Right. But if you're on our Discord, I already warned you. So, yeah. Have any of you guys played this game before?
No.
No. I've watched it. I've seen it streamed on Twitch, and it's an amazing game for what I've seen. Yeah.
It is. And, a lot of times when you get a really good game, sometimes it's like the story's really good, but they kind of lacked on maybe some of the graphics, or you get a game where the graphics is really good, but the story kind of fell. This game has been consistent with both.
Yeah.
And if you are a fan of, like I said, the Norse mythology, they don't stray from that, which is really cool, because sometimes, it's Hollywood. Sometimes they kind of will to make it fit their game a little bit better, but no, they have, if it will fuck him up in mythology for this to be happening, it's going to fuck him up in the game too, So, and like I said, I think it's great that Sony has stayed with them to the end with this. So, a lot of times, like I said, they play around when you get Rocksteady do this one or Lionsgate do this one, but When you hit that lightning in a bottle, keep it. Because so far, none of these games have flopped. And not only have they done this, like I said, this is the 9th game coming out in the series, but they have 3 other games which are kind of side stories from this that you can play on your mobile phones and stuff too. So there's a lot of this story. I'm hoping it's not the last of the story, but I'm excited to get another chunk of that story.
4 years.
4 years. Yes.
4 lights.
Wait. That's almost as long as we've waited for Mandalorians.
Wow.
I had to.
No, you really didn't.
That,
But okay.
that comment brought to you from the Department of Cheap Shots.
Right.
Mhm.
Oh.
All
Yeah.
right.
So if
Yeah.
anyone checks it out, let me know.
It's on Discord.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And even better, if you're streaming it, I'll come watch you play.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. For me, this was actually going to be my item from last week, but I kept it because this is kind of significant. We are actually going to get a streaming series of Friday 13th. It's going to be titled Crystal Lake, and this is going to serve as a prequel to the original film and cover the history of the camp and possibly talk about if there may be some supernatural evil elements to the camp. It's going to be on Peacock, and it's already got the straight to series order. So there's no pilot, and we'll see how it does. They're going to just go ahead and do it. And Brian Fuller is going to be overseeing it and will be a writer. And he's showrunner and an executive producer. The significance of this is that means that everybody's on board, because if anybody who's a fan of the Friday the 13th franchise know there was a big battle.
The mess.
It was a mess between Victor Miller, who wrote the original the screenplay to the original film, and then Horror Inc., who's been handling the films pretty much since then. They're both on board. They made the agreement, and they're both listed as producers. In addition to Victor Miller's lawyer, which is a name, if y'all been listening to us, it's a name we've mentioned before, Mark Toberoff. Does that name ring a bell to you guys?
Who, me?
Well, I hope people that are listening are going, yeah, I know.
So it's not ringing a bell with you guys.
No.
No, sorry.
He's the one that's handled the Siegel and Schuster cases, the Bill Finger cases, all the other comic book creator cases. He's been the lawyer.
Cool.
Okay.
So this guy has some skins on the wall. And obviously, he can add.
Are you sure there aren't faces?
That could be.
Given our episode this week, that is pretty much a perfect
That was.
It is.
metaphor.
I know. And you know, so the suit's been settled, and it's very complicated, but both Miller and Horror Inc. had to be involved for anything to happen. So, but with that happening, all bets are, and from what I've read in other articles, anything's open. Anything from any of the films could be used in the series, not just the original film. So, I mean, you can have Pam. Was it Pam? It's a Pam Voorhees.
Yeah, his mom.
But you can also use adult Jason with the hockey mask. Hell, if they want to do something about him in space, they can do that. And all bets are off. So
this will actually be a Jason series this time, because they've done this to us before, and it was like, wait a minute.
well, it may not be a Jason series, but it's definitely going to be revolving around the movie franchises and not the pawn shop that has all the cursed items. So.
I like that.
So
I mean, I liked the pawn shop with the cursed items too.
It just wasn't Friday the 13th.
It wasn't. No.
It's like having a Halloween film with no Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
someone said that before.
Why would they even think?
Right.
But this is significant. This is going to be the first Friday 13th anything since 2009.
Wow. I hadn't realized it had been that long.
It's been that long.
As long as Avatar, really.
Pretty much.
Damn. I didn't realize that had been that long.
It's been a while.
Well, that's cool. I hope it does good. I'm kind of curious how you would make a series from that.
Well, there's once again, there's several possibilities. If they go with the whole thing of the camp being cursed, could it be that's what affected Pam, or did it was funny because when this broke, I thought about the story, the miniseries that Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray wrote long time ago. I mean, we're talking early 2000s, late 90s, somewhere around there. I know I'm going to be off, but not by much. It was a long time ago, and they kind of dealt with the campus curse and that kind of thing. So when that broke, he tweeted something about I wonder if they're going to use our material or something along those lines. And I sent a response to him and said, I thought that too as soon as I heard this, because that's exactly what I did. So
Yeah.
But then again, they could do other things. They could say, if they did definitely go with the whole campus curse, they could have another serial killer, a Jason before Jason.
Or it's kind of a thing where, thinking series, I always think long term instead of just one series at a time. You could make it to where this camp is just like fucked up and you have new people every season, I guess.
They could, they could do
where
that.
It wouldn't be a Jason killer. It would be one of the counselors who just snapped throughout this crazy camp.
I don't see them using adult Jason unless they say, okay, sometime in the future this, it's like a flashback episode. It's him doing this and he's thinking about something that happened back there. I don't know. If it's going to be a prequel series, I can't see Jason be in it a whole lot.
Yeah.
But
or they could show that he was really like this really twisted little kid, and they drowned him to save him from being Ed Gein.
But he turns around and becomes Ed Gein.
Yeah.
So
haha.
Who knows? I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. That's cool.
I think it's going to be kind of similar to what we had with Bates Motel.
Probably
because
that went well.
That did go well.
I did quite a few seasons, or not quite a few. Wasn't it like 3 or 4?
They did 5, I think.
5.
Let's see.
It's on from 2013 to 2017. So 3 or 4.
5 seasons.
5 seasons. Yep.
50 episodes. So, yeah, I mean, it depending on how they handle it and how the fans respond to it, the fans are going to want to. The fans are chomping at the bit for this.
Yes.
Because there hasn't been anything for something. That's actually the longest break. There's been three. There's been 3 Halloween films. There's been 4 or 5 Texas Chainsaw Massacres. That may be a little too much, and a couple Child's Play. There's been no Nightmare on Elm Street.
No.
So now that one has the distinction of the longest drought. But so we'll see. It sounds interesting. It could be. And Brian Fuller, he handled Hannibal, which did real well, and co-creator Star Trek Discovery, which is has its fans and has its detractors, but I think there's a lot of people that are happy about this news. So
that's cool. Nice. I am.
Mm-hmm.
Annabelle is happy.
Yikes.
Oh, Christ. Okay. Any special shout-outs this week? Because let's wrap this up.
God, no. I'm not dragging this out any more than I have to.
Bless you, sir. Okay, with that, I guess we'll move on to regular shout-outs. First off, I want to thank Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be a part of a great group of fellow podcasts. We recommend that you check them out. There'll be a link in the show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who've been so gracious to spread the word of the fellowship on Twitter. That is Potter and Family. Definitely check them out. The best way to do that is go to Twitter, do a search, #Potter and Family, and just scroll through whatever catches your eye. Click on that link and download that episode, and hope you have a great time listening to them. Thank you guys as always. Want to thank Mandy the Martyr for supplying music to our podcast. In our show notes, you'll find a link where you can listen to their music. Thank you guys as always. And finally, you, dear listener. Thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. Any questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please send them our way. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website, go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out. We did mention the Discord. We do have a feedback section where you can post your comments there. Social media, we're on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. We are now on Instagram, @FellowshipGeeks. And we are on Twitter, @FellowshipGeeks as well. Follow us on all those platforms. If you'd like to follow our personal Twitter account, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. Les may or may not be found @FakeLesWebster. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you would take a couple moments to rate and review our show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
4 lights. Thank you for listening, everybody. We do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @FellowshipGeeks. Until next time,